Hi guys! Today in this episode, I'm with Nils, Pihl, CEO and founder of Auki Labs. Today we're going to learn more about Posemesh, which is a spatial computing protocol for AR, metaverse, and smart cities, and some of the cool use cases that Auki Labs is working on. So today is going to be quite a futuristic episode, learning more about these unique use cases of blockchain, and also we'll be learning how they're intersecting blockchain and AI as well, since that's kind of like a growing narrative that a lot of people are paying attention to as well. So today, Nils has a lot of alpha and insights to share, and make sure to stick around to the end because he'll be sharing some exclusive alpha leaks as well to the audience. All right, shifting to you, Nils. So can you share a bit more about your background, your profile, and short introduction about Auki Labs and Posemesh, please?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Nils. I'm one of the founders of Auki Labs. We're building the Posemesh, which is a decentralized machine perception network, basically a DePIN for AI perception. We got started in 2019 doing something quite different. We were making AR overlays for the tabletop game Warhammer. That's what we wanted to do. But we learned when doing that that it's actually super, super difficult to do shared augmented reality experiences. Now, why would that be? Well, it turns out that digital devices like the phones we use and the laptops we use and robots have a very poor understanding of the physical world. They don't know very precisely where they are in the physical world. And if you want to render some digital content in the physical world in exactly the same place for many people, then you need to know exactly where you are. I don't mean what street address you're on. You need to know the difference between being here and being here. And that level of precision is fundamentally impossible to get out of the GPS, for example. So, undeterred, we really wanted to make this work. So we spent the next 2 years from 2019 to 2021 working on how can we solve shared AR. And in 2021, we invented the world's first instant technique for getting two devices calibrated into the same coordinate system so you could see the same AR at the same place. Now you might think, well, wasn't there shared AR before? What about games like Pokemon Go? Surely there was shared AR in Pokemon Go. And the answer is not really, actually. Pokemon Go was a map based game where if Pikachu would appear on your street corner, if you went there, Pikachu would appear somewhere around your street corner. But if my colleague Chris went at the same time, he would see Pikachu somewhere else on that street corner. It was uh, they worked with the assumption that you weren't going to go there at the same time and you weren't going to go looking at the same time. So they didn't really have shared AR. If you wanted to do shared AR, like a photo with your Pokemons together, what you would need to do is you would have to scan a QR code on each other's screens, stand next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, point your cameras at a shared object, and then slowly walk around that object as your camera feed was being analyzed by Pokemon Go's servers to try to figure out where you are standing in relation to each other. And this would typically take a minute. But in 2021, we invented the world's first way to get that done in a second. And of course, this happened very luckily for us right in the middle of the metaverse hype bubble. And we had a very strong narrative to tell them that, well, okay, the metaverse is either going to be VR based or AR based. And we are very, very strong believers that the metaverse in its final form is going to be AR based. But if
Mm.
you want to build an AR metaverse, then you have to first solve positioning. And since we had patent pending defensible technology that could do something that not even Apple could do, not even Microsoft could do, not even Google could do, we were in a very good position uh, for that bull run. We raised $19 million in seed funding, making us technically the most well funded AR startup of all time if you count out inflation. If you do count inflation, then Magic Leap has got us beat by a little bit. And since then, we have been building this decentralized positioning protocol, or as I said earlier, a decentralized machine perception network. really the idea behind the Posemesh is to allow computers, devices, robots to understand physical space together so that they can place digital information in physical space, they can navigate physical spaces, you can have spatial AI that is interacting with physical spaces. And we think that this is one of the big missing pieces of the internet.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And then you guys were like pioneer in the space. Also, congratulations on the fundraising. That's absolutely impressive. So, can you share a bit more about like the inspiration behind your project and like your background leading up to this point, and what problems are you trying to tackle in like a bigger picture with your product and solution?
So the the big picture is that unless computers, AI, robots understand the physical world, there's not that much they can do in the physical world. We do a lot of work towards retail, like stores, fashion, grocery, this kind of stuff. And one narrative that's really resonating with them is that AI is very quickly becoming, the fastest, most efficient knowledge worker out there, but it can only act on digital information. And
Mhm.
that gives a huge advantage to e-commerce versus retail because e-commerce is a digital business,
Mhm.
right? So if AI is becoming the most cost effective worker you can have, but the benefits of AI go disproportionately to e commerce, then retailers are worried. Now, luckily, the concept of spatial computing is how you teach computers to understand the physical space.
Mhm.
And at the intersection of spatial computing, AI, and DePIN is where we've positioned ourselves to build a DePIN for spatial computing to help AI understand the physical world.
Mhm.
Really, what we wanted to do was create something that can replace the GPS, that can provide the kind of millimeter precision that a lot of use cases need without building a centralized cloud service where someone like Google or Microsoft or, God forbid, Meta can literally look through our AR glasses. And I mean that quite literally because if you remember how I said that shared AR was fixed in Pokemon Go, it was by comparing the image feeds of the two phones in a central cloud. The
Mhm.
way these big companies are imagining that AR glasses will work in the future is that you will quite literally be streaming what you are seeing to their servers so that you can figure out where you are. And I think that's one of the most dystopian Black Mirror things imagined. The problem is it's already real. Like this is already built. You can already use this kind of technology. In fact, uh, Google Street View, right? Like many years ago already, Google started uh, sending cars around with lidars and cameras capturing the world. And I think 2 years ago, they released what's called the Spatial API, which
Mhm.
has taken all of these billions of images, fed them into a machine learning tumble dryer of sorts, and spat out a 3D copy of what the world looks like. And you can take your camera feed from your phone or your AR glasses and send that to Google, and they will tell you with about half a meter precision where you are. Like
Right.
this technology is already live. It's not speculative. This is for sure what Google is building and what Microsoft is building and what Niantic is building, etc. And
Mhm.
we felt that it's very important actually to decentralize this kind of positioning technology, both for technical reasons, which I hope we'll be able to dive into, but also for ethical reasons. We
Mhm.
shouldn't have to trust any single company to have the power to look through our eyes. That's too much power for any one company.
Yeah, actually, you're touching on the exact right point where I will lead to next question is like, why do we need to use blockchain and AI in your solution? Like, what is the impact of decentralization in your case? Like, because that can be like centralized sort of solution as well, right? So like, how does using blockchain make an impact in your solution and adds like value proposition?
If you want to have a decentralized machine perception network where machines can collaborate with each other, of course, it's very helpful if there's some kind of financial incentive for providing data to each other, because providing data and providing compute ultimately is a cost. It costs you battery, it costs you time, it costs CPU. So ideally, you want to be able to get compensated, but also you want to be able to trust the people that you're collaborating with.
Mm.
Now, to make this beginner friendly, I want you to imagine that it's the year 2030 and you have just asked your robot boyfriend to go grocery shopping for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's walk through a little bit how this might work. Of course, your robot boyfriend already understands your home and can navigate your home. How? Well, because it's connected to some kind of a spatial computing protocol, either a centralized or a decentralized one. And then it goes out to the street level and it navigates, perhaps by GPS, to the grocery store.
Mm.
But once you get to the grocery store, here's where things get really tricky. So we want the robot to go find the ketchup, the salt, and the cheese. And what happens now is that the robot actually is knows just as little about the grocery store as you and I do, right? The robot does not have a copy of what the store looks like. So when the robot arrives at the store, it actually has to go look in every aisle just the way you and I do. And just to, drop some stats here, the average American spends 41 minutes in the grocery store every time they go to the grocery store. So
And
grocery visits take time, right?
true.
But also every third time that someone goes to a grocery store, they end up leaving without one of the items they wanted to buy,
Mm.
often because they couldn't find the item or even the staff couldn't find the item. So, of course, it would be nice to imagine that this robot would just know where the ketchup and the cheese and the salt is. Why can't it? Well, if you go into a grocery store today and you try filming the shelves, they'll throw you out.
Yeah.
And the reason they'll throw you out is products that are placed at eye level
Hmm.
sell, according to retail touch points, sell 82% more, right? So just placing a product at eye level is an 82% increase in sale.
Wow.
And because of that, retailers are very, very protective of their visual merchandising strategies. Like basically, how they place the products in the store is one of their most well kept secrets.
Mm.
So they don't want you filming this. They know that when you as a person go in there, you're not going to have photographic memory and remember where everything is. But they also just don't want ultimately someone else to have a copy of what the store looks like.
Mm.
So if there's a centralized spatial computing service, how would that work? Well, then the store would have to tell the centralized service where the ketchup and the cheese and the salt is. And the grocery store does not want to do that. But if it's a decentralized service where the store can host their own positioning system, then they can be allowed to only answer the relevant questions.
Mm.
So the robot arrives at the store and it connects to the Posemesh domain of the grocery store and then says, "Hey, grocery store, could you please tell me where the ketchup is?" And the grocery store can answer just where the ketchup is
Yeah.
without sending a complete data dump of what the entire store looks like. So this is more privacy preserving for the store, which creates an incentive for them to participate. But it's also more technically superior in the way that, well, the robot gets something to connect to because the grocery store would never connect to the centralized positioning service. And when the robot comes home, in our vision, the robot connects to your self-hosted Postmesh domain.
Mm.
Again, not connecting to our cloud service. We should never be able to see what the inside of your home looks like. We should never be able to see what the inside of the grocery store looks like. So, how does blockchain factor into this? Well, of course, the store wants to get compensated for rendering for visiting applications.
Mhm.
So if the robot is not running the store's software, so the store cannot collect the data they want about what you're buying, etc., then they will want to get paid a little bit for providing the service.
Mm.
But they also want to be able to self-host, and they want to be able to know the reputation that your robot has. So what we've done with the post mesh is that we have put participant reputations on chain.
Mm.
So you basically stake a reputation on chain and say that you're going to behave, and if you don't behave, we can slash that reputation. So there's an incentive for you to follow the rules set up by whatever venue you're visiting. But also, as a participant, if you want to share information, let's say my colleague Chris, his robot is in the store, and the store doesn't even have a Posemesh domain. But your robot could then ask Chris's robot, do you know where the ketchup is? And
Mm,
he would be rewarded for answering the question. So the
mm,
idea where blockchain helps us doing collaborative spatial computing is to maintain reputations and to reward participation.
mm,
So there's a financial incentive for sharing relevant data, but there's also a reputation system that creates financial disincentives for
mm.
abusing the system.
Right.
And we are building this on the Avalanche blockchain because we were very impressed with how the Avalanche blockchain allows us to do subnets, commitment to open source, and ultimately the Avalanche engineers' technical understanding of what it is we are building. We were shopping around for blockchains for a long time, and I want to give a shout out here to a guy named Jovica at Avalanche, who is the guy that single-handedly seduced us to build an Avalanche because he was a very excellent engineer that understood what we were building, why we're building it this way, and understood also what the limitations of any blockchain was going to be when building this, and gave us the most down to earth, good
Mm.
recommendations on how we could use blockchain to build a decentralized machine perception network. So, Jovica, if you are watching this, thank you for your guidance.
That's absolutely awesome. Yeah, I think that's like very interesting to hear that, without blockchain you wouldn't be able to do like these like on-chain reputational systems and like do it in a decentralized manner does make an impact in this sort of use case and how Avalanche is enabling you to do that. I mean, there are other solutions or blockchain ecosystem that would allow you to launch your own customized chain as well, right? But like, can you share a bit more about how does using subnet on Avalanche makes it a top choice for you?
So, ultimately, there are other chains that can support what we wanted to do, but an important part for us in choosing a blockchain was having a partner that understands what we do and
Mm,
will not give us nonsense advice. There's a lot of, all right, I'm going to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer here now. And uh, in 2021, at the peak of the bull run, Mark Zuckerberg fired more engineers than there are engineers in all of Web3. There are very few engineers in Web3. Web3 is mainly bankers and marketers with a handful of engineers. And as a result, we found, because we're not from crypto, as we were entering crypto and learning about these different chains, we kept finding that the representatives of different chains really didn't understand even their own technology, didn't
mm,
understand the limitations of their own technology. We had one chain, for example, say that we should move the entire system on chain because they can handle over 2,000 transactions per second. But 2,000 transactions per second is absolutely nothing when it comes to the kind of real-time data interaction that needs to happen for robotics and AI. For scale, 2,000 uh, transactions per second is less than a big PUBG room. Like you couldn't even host one game of PUBG on 2,000 transactions per second. And if you're like a proper engineer, you know this. But if
mm,
you're some business developer at some L2 chain, you don't know this.
mm,
And what really impressed us with the Avalanche engineers is they did not bullshit us and push us to build things that didn't make sense to put on chain. They
mm,
really understood their own technology and our technology. And that made us comfortable in choosing them as a partner to build something as important as a decentralized machine perception network. We feel very passionately about the importance for civilization to build something like this. And ultimately, we didn't want to build it with a bunch of misinformed crypto bros that don't understand the limitations of their own technology. So uh, there was a strong cultural fit with Avalanche because they didn't try to push solutions on us that didn't make sense, and they made the effort to really understand what we are building. And it was a night and day difference between Avalanche's technical support and the technical support we got from other chains. I remember one of Avalanche's competing chains even gave us a demo running on their local host. Like very clearly, we could see that this is not even real. You're just running this locally on your machine, and they thought we wouldn't understand, right? So again, for scale, it's important to remember that Mark Zuckerberg fired more engineers than there are engineers in all of Web3. Web3 still has a big lack of engineering talent. And so when you find good engineering talent, that's something that we latch onto. And Avalanche had really, really good engineering talent.
Got it. I see. That does make a difference. I mean, I used to be an engineer, so totally understand that. You know, so now we've heard some teaser about your product. And so can you share like a quick demo of your product to help the user and the audience like visualize the product a bit more and see how it works, especially for some of the use cases like the spatial AI platform for retail?
Absolutely. So there are two layers to what we are doing. Of course, we're building the Posemesh protocol itself, which is application agnostic. Anyone can build on the Posemesh and can build any kind of robotics or AR experience that they want to build. But we are also building some actual applications ourselves because we believe in these applications, but also because we want to show the world what can be done with the Posemesh. And right now, our big focus is on helping retailers. And to set the stage a little bit, I want to throw some big numbers out there to illustrate how big the pain points are that we are tackling. Now, the retail industry is plagued internationally by very high staff turnover. Between 50 and 85% globally of anyone that goes into retail will switch jobs again within a year. Right? So very, very high annual turnover. In fact, if you do a quick back of the napkin calculation, you will find that Walmart, which is the world's largest retailer, they spend over $100 million every year on first day salaries, right? Just let that sink in. Over $100 million spent every year on first day salaries. And of course, you can't do all of your staff training in a single day. So staff training is a huge cost center because staff turnover is a huge for these retailers. So we use the Posemesh to make it so that even a first day staffer can know where every product is supposed to be and the fastest way to pick up a complex order. So let's say that you just started working at a grocery retailer today and you get put on a shift where you're supposed to pick up the online orders and someone drops an order of 20 items that you need to pick up. Thanks to our applications running on top of the Posemesh, we'll be able to guide you with a route optimized way, minimizing the amount of steps you have to take to make sure that you can pick up this order as fast as possible. And this is really important actually because grocery retailers have a razor thin profit margin. The typical retailer only has 1 to 3% profit margin. So if we do some quick napkin math here, around 5 minutes of retail worker time is roughly $1 of salary, right? So if you spend 15 minutes picking up this order, which is less than 1 minute per item. So you might spend more than that for these 20 items, right? But if you spend 15 minutes picking up that order, that's $3 just to pick up that order, right? And that's not counting the alternative cost of maybe you should be doing other things. So helping you pick that order several minutes faster makes a huge impact on the bottom line. But also, we talked a little bit earlier in this call about the issue of stockouts. I said that every third time that we go to the grocery store, we leave without an item that we intended to buy. The IHL group were studying shopper behaviors and whether or not people find what they're looking for. And they found that every third visit on average, we leave without an item. And the reasons why are interesting. So within this third, 1/3 of that third is because the shelf was empty, right? So basically, someone had already taken the last product off the shelf and the grocery store hadn't reacted quickly enough to put new items there. That's 1/3 of the time. So that's a huge cost center already. You need to react very quickly to the shelf running out of items. But another third of the times when people left without an item they wanted was a 50-50 split between the staff member that I asked couldn't find the item. So that's 1/6 of the time. I asked a staff member and the staff member couldn't find it. And the other half is I couldn't even find a staff member to ask. So that means that 2/3 of the time, something like the Posemesh would have helped. We can help the shopper find the item directly. We can help the staffer find the item directly. But with our spatial AI, as we'll be showing here in the spliced in footage, with our spatial AI, we can even detect empty shelves and instantly send a worker there with AR navigation and everything to make sure that the shelves are always full. So by connecting an AI to the Posemesh, you can get a spatial AI that understand what needs to get fixed in the store and can send both human and robotic workers to go address the issues faster than humanly possible. So one of the demos we like to give here in our demo store is that within seconds of me taking the last toilet paper off of a shelf, a notification will pop off in my colleagues' pockets, and they will be guided with AR to which specific shelf needs to be restocked, so that we can do the restocking in minutes. Like, it's incredibly, incredibly quick.
Stockouts are a leading cause of shopper frustration and lost revenue for retailers. When a shopper can't find what they're looking for on the shelf, they're likely to go buy it online instead. Let's say that I just bought the last toilet paper on that shelf. There may be more in the back, but for now, the shelf is empty. How long until the item is back on the shelf? Luckily, this store is running Convergent, the spatial AI, and it's looking through these stores' many cameras, and it has already created a task to fix the stockout, complete with AR navigation, so that the staffers can address the issue faster than humanly possible. With spatial AI, even first-day staff members can find every issue and item instantly. Retailers lose close to $1 trillion in revenue every year due to stockouts, and that's before we factor in the cost of staff training. Spatial AI gives every staffer the superhuman ability to know what needs to get done and where.
Well, the IHL group estimates that over $900 billion are lost to stockouts every year. And a lot of the time, this just means that people go and buy the item on Amazon instead. And as I illustrated here, 2/3 of that time, the Posemesh can help. So we are hoping that basically, if we can deploy the Posemesh across all retailers globally, we would be saving them on the order of $600 billion annually in stockout prevention, while also reducing the cost of staff training, which is a huge cost center for them, and hopefully adding additional items to the basket as we help the shoppers explore the store in a better way. So our ambition for this first product series, the spatial AI, is to roll out into locations over the next 3 years. The Posemesh is so easy to install that we think that this is a realistic goal, and we're already working with some of the largest retailers in the world to make this happen. And we think something like, on average, $200 of value captured for us per store. So we think we'll be able to ramp up to about $250 million in recurring revenue for this one application in the next 3 years. And that's just looking at groceries. So, of course, the Posemesh can also be used for hotels, for hospitals, for warehouses, really any physical business. We have a very strong conviction that the Posemesh is a missing piece of the internet, and that there's quite literally trillion-dollar opportunities that can be unlocked through collaborative spatial computing.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing, because like it's the sort of solution I wish I had when I visit like store like Walmart, which is like massive, right? When people I mean, I used to be in the States, and then like walking around the Walmart, it takes like can sometimes take hours. And I wish I had these sort of like solutions to help me guide around and show like me where things are, instead of me having to figure it out everything myself. And I think many people would imagine like they would prefer having that sort of solution as well. And yeah, I imagine like with warehouses, that is like quite massive, have a lot of items, can be like very useful with like supply chain sort of use cases as well, and like for retail. So you mentioned a bit about like, let's say, retail stores globally. Can you share a bit more about like what's your current stage of the product and traction, and which partners are you guys like partnering up with the moment?
So yeah, when it comes to product traction, a lot of our pilots are unfortunately under NDA, but there's one retailer that has been kind enough to not NDA with us, which is Coop. Coop is Sweden's second largest grocery retailer, and they have been piloting with us for a couple of months now, basically using the Posemesh to leave invisible post-it notes for each other in the store. Basically, shared AR task management. And what they've been sharing with us is, prior to using our software, prior to using the Posemesh to leave these invisible post-it notes, the team would start every morning with a 20-minute meeting where they walk through the store and discuss what needs to get done. You know, this needs to be moved over here, this needs to be relabeled, etc., etc. But now, thanks to being able to lease AR notes for each other, they even don't need to have that meeting anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we are saving uh, around 20 minutes per employee per day. 20 minutes per employee per day, just by making it easier for them to hand over tasks to each other. So we made them a task manager that allows them to take a photo of an issue, write down a description, but even place it in AR. So if there's a new staffer that doesn't immediately know where this is, they can just hit the navigate button and get taken straight there.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, we are super excited about the qualitative results that we're getting from this. They're telling us that task handovers are smoother, that we have fewer misunderstandings about what needs to get done, and we see them use it every day that that team is there, and have been using it daily for over 3 months now. So we're really excited about the qualitative results of that. We're piloting with a lot of other big retailers globally that unfortunately we're under NDA and can't talk about how that's doing. But what I can say is I'm quite comfortable in making the prediction that we should be able to get into 100,000 stores in the next 3 years based on who we're already piloting with.
Can you like leak a little bit about like the region, or just like
So we are all over the world, but the places where we've had the most success with pilots have been in Asia and Europe, because they are faster decision makers ultimately. But also, interestingly, technology is actually quite behind in the United States. Retailers in Asia and Europe are more technically advanced than American retailers. I believe this is because America is a very car-based culture where the shopping behavior is different. The typical European, the typical Asian visits the grocery store 4 times a week, but the typical American only visits once per week. They go by car, they make a bigger visit, and this change in shopper behavior has, in my opinion, led American retailers to focus much more on marketing technology, and Europeans and Asians to work a lot more with operational efficiency. So we see that tech adoption in the retail sector is significantly higher in Asia and Europe, and we are only having our first pilots in the US now. Like it took a long time for us to get to real pilots in the US because the decision making process was a lot slower. Whereas here in Hong Kong, our headquarters, we can typically get to a pilot within 2 weeks of our first meeting.
I see, I see. Yeah, that does make sense. And it's good to hear that you have like a plan to scale and grow the project globally. I think that would make like a lot of difference, especially for like a decentralized network where you can like have like on-chain reputation across the world. So very exciting to hear. Can you share more about like your business model and your revenue model, and how you guys like generating the revenue, please?
So at the level of the Posemesh, have an innovative burn credit mint tokenomics that we spent 2 years formalizing ourselves, where basically, as an app developer or a robot developer, someone that wants to use the Posemesh, what you do is you burn a dollar denominated amount of Auki tokens. Meaning if you want $100 worth of service, you just burn $100 worth of tokens. And burning those tokens will give you Posemesh credits. And these Posemesh credits you use as you exchange data with other participants in the network, right? So as you consume camera feeds or post updates or semantic segmentation from other people in the network, your credits are consumed. And when the burn happens, we also do a deflationary mint that goes into a set of reward pools. And the reward pools are paid out to the various participants based on how many credits were spent there. So again, if my colleague Chris is an app developer and he has made a game, for example, that people can play in Walmart, he's made Walmart racers, for example, then as an app developer, he would be spending a lot of his credits with Walmart, right? Connecting to Walmart's different domains, and would be rewarded in our tokens for the service that they have provided to Chris. So this is the burn credit mint system. So again, developers burn a dollar denominated amount. So they have complete price stability. They understand what the service is going to cost. That triggers a deflationary mint that goes into our reward pools, and the reward pools are paid out based on the proportion of credits that each participant has served during the epoch. So those are the fundamentals of the Posemesh tokenomics. Now, if you're building on top of the Posemesh and you're building your own applications, of course, you can charge however you want your end users. So again, if we imagine this hypothetical game that, to be clear, does not exist, right? But if Walmart Racers is ad driven, of course, Chris can keep his own advertising revenue. If it's a premium game where people buy the app, he can keep his own revenue. You can think of the Posemesh a little bit like AWS, right? Like it's not exposed to the end user; it's exposed to the developers, right? So when we build our own applications on top of the Posemesh, then we have to pay the participants that help us just like everyone else does. But we can also charge some fiat for the actual services that we provide directly to the retailer themselves. So when we sell applications like our Spatial AI, some of that is fiat just captured from the retailer, but we have to pay the Posemesh for the protocol usage. And we do that by burning tokens. And if you were to build an application on the Posemesh, you would get access by burning tokens. And if you were a participant providing data or compute to other participants, you would be earning tokens.
Got it. Got it. I see. So that's very cool, like mechanism. So now we talked a little bit about the underlying Posemesh, right? Can you help share a bit more on like what are some of the other use cases beyond retail?
Yes, over 100 different projects are already building on the Posemesh. One that we can talk about is Animoca, who recently built a shared AR experience called Mindful Ocean using the Posemesh. So thanks to our instant calibration, our this patent pending thing that we invented, and you can have these very spontaneous shared AR experiences where you see the same thing in the same place. So this can definitely be used for gaming. You can use it to build AR pets, companions. You can use it even for things like defense. We're talking to some government entities across the world now about using the Posemesh for leaving sensitive notes in 3D space for things like law enforcement and firefighters, things like this. Really, what the Posemesh enables is putting digital information in physical space. And the use cases for that are kind of unlimited. If I can borrow a quote from Tim Cook, when Tim Cook, when Apple launched the Apple Vision Pro, Tim Cook said that just as the Macintosh introduced us to personal computers and the iPhone introduced us to mobile computers, the Apple Vision Pro will introduce us to spatial computers. Now, what that means is not that we're making a transition from desktop to mobile to headsets, although that is happening too. What a spatial computer is a computer that understands the physical environment. And the transition from from not computers to desktop computers was just this huge economic event that impacted humanity profoundly. And then mobile computers came around and again just impacted humanity profoundly. Like arguably the invention of mobile computers had a greater impact than even the invention of the desktop computer. And like Apple, we believe that spatial computers will have an equal or even bigger impact as even the invention of mobile computing. What Apple is trying to tell you when they say that the Apple Vision Pro is introducing us to spatial computers is that there's a shift now in how humanity will be interacting with digital information that will be as profound as the adoption of smartphones. So, what industry was impacted by computers? All of them. What industry was impacted by mobile computers? All of them. And what industries will be impacted by spatial computing? Ultimately, all of them.
I see. Yep. So that's great to hear that like you have like a lot of use cases building on like the Posemesh. So like looking forward to see more of like of these full use cases spanning from like AI to like smart cities and probably more use cases in the future, right? So can you share a bit more on like your outlook on the future of spatial AI and DePIN? And what is your view on the convergence between blockchain and AI?
So in 2014, Naval Ravikant wrote this blog post that's been very influential on my thinking, where he argued that in the future, machines will need internet native money to be able to negotiate with each other. And one of the examples that he used was traffic, right? If you're going to have not just self driving cars, but cars that coordinate with each other so that they can solve traffic problems, lane merging and who goes first and things like this. Uh, the best way to build such a protocol, Naval argued, is to allow the AI agents driving the cars to have economic preferences. So basically, your car should be able to say, hey, I am so keen to get to my location that I'm willing to pay you a cent to let you merge or to let me merge ahead of you here in this traffic jam. And that really resonated with me. But I think that Naval forgot an important part there, which is that the cars can't actually coordinate with each other unless they can also talk about space together. So just as Naval said that there's a missing fifth protocol of the internet, native internet money, we believe that there's a missing sixth protocol of the internet, which is collaborative spatial computing. And the Posemesh is sitting right there at the intersection of DePIN and AI and spatial computing to allow machines to be able to do these kinds of spatial tasks and spatial data negotiation with each other. And just for scale, right? I used to live in Beijing for 7 years. Beijing is a very big city. In fact, it's so big that there are more cars on the road in Beijing than there are people in Los Angeles, right? And each one of these cars, on average, is spending 2 hours commuting every day. So, okay, let's do some quick napkin math. It turns out that over 1,000 years of human productivity are lost in Beijing traffic jams every day, right? So over 1,000 years of human productivity are lost in Beijing traffic jams every day.
Wow.
Now, okay, so if we can then imagine not just self-driving cars, but coordinating cars, we could get a lot of that productivity back. We could get hundreds of human productivity years back every single day, just in Beijing. But for something like that to be possible, you need something like the Posemesh. You need a decentralized machine perception network that will allow these cars to communicate with each other intelligently about space. So again, yeah, just on the small scale of solving Beijing's traffic issues, there's, what's 100 years of human productivity worth? You can that by the average, GDP per capita in
Mm.
in Beijing, and you see that there's a lot of economic value that can be unlocked through collaborative spatial computing. And I think, in fact, it's hard to even estimate how big the economic impact will be because it's touching on so many things. Like if you were a McKinsey consultant and you had to figure out how big is the market impact of smartphones, that'd be very hard, very, very hard to calculate. So can make every driver as competent at finding their way around as a taxi driver. That's great. But spatial computing and collaborative spatial computing could make traffic not even need red lights anymore. What's the value of something like that?
Yeah.
What's the value of people being able to leave digital information in physical space? What's the value of things like AR pets and AR AI companions? Uh, it really is a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity to build collaborative spatial computing, and we just hope to be able to keep working hard as we've been, so that the future is not centralized spatial computing, because
Mm.
that would be just a Black Mirror nightmare that's already unfolding uh, in front of us. Our hope is that we can kind of help guide the decentralization movement to care about something more important than the decentralization of finance. As someone who's not from crypto, one of the things that pains me about this movement is because there are so few engineers in this space, there's so much focus on finance, right? But finance is not attractive to engineers.
Mhm.
There's a reason why there are so few engineers here, right? But when we start building things like collaborative AI perception, my hope is that we can attract more engineers to the space and solve more pressing issues
Mm.
than, you know, collaborative staking, things like this. It's not as meaningful, it's not as interesting. Again, Mark Zuckerberg fired more engineers than there are engineers in all of Web3, right? So we have a lot of recruiting to do as a movement. And my hope is that by solving more pressing issues than finance, that we can finally attract those engineers to the decentralization movement.
I think you're touching on a really good point that like DeFi, I mean, that's one of like the early use cases of blockchain, but it's not like the key like value adding proposition of blockchain, right? As a blockchain enthusiast, like this is why I have guys like you or invite guys like you to be on this episode because it's a very unique use case of blockchain and like this technology can be more game changing than just enabling like decentralized finance, exactly like you said. And like I think there are many underrated projects and use cases of blockchain that I'd like to amplify more. For example, like you guys that are doing something really cool that unlocks the real capability of blockchain technology and also incorporating AI and DePIN into the picture to capture a really big market opportunity ahead. I think what you guys are working on is super cool, and yeah, would love to see more of the like updates and traction coming from you guys as well once you guys can leak more info about that. So finally, can you share some exclusive alpha and some leaks about upcoming developments and initiatives from Auki Labs and Posemesh that our audience can keep an eye out for this year, please?
Absolutely. So people that are part of our Discord community, which you can find at discord.gg/Aukiverse, will have just the other night been invited to our DePIN stress testing initiative, where you are able to, through a Telegram bot, stress test our global DePIN network to see how responsive it is. We're using this to basically build a latency map of the world's internet, which is very, very cool. And if you want to help us with that, you can go try out this bot and you will be earning points for helping us do this. These points will be used in meaningful ways as we get closer to the launch. So this is one way that you can be very early and get involved right now. Go join our Discord community at discord.gg/Aukiverse and also start interacting with our stress testing bot on Telegram. Another big thing that is just about to go live is that we have partnered with a service called DripFi that will allow you to stake some of your stables or ETH that you have lying around in exchange for the same kind of points that you're getting from the stress testing that will be used for us to help gauge the community interest in this project. And we will be scaling the community deployed tokens based on how much people interact with DripFi. So we should be paying out the first points rewards. The goal is this Wednesday at 1800 European summertime. So again, you can go to dripfi.io and look for our project on there. You can stake some of your stables or your ETH and help us out that way. See the very, very latest demos of what we're doing. There's no better place to be than in our Discord community. If you're not a big Discord person, you should follow us on Twitter at Posemesh and at Auki Labs to see what it is we're up to. On the Posemesh channel, we're a lot more blockchain focused, whereas on the Auki Labs channel, we're a lot more solutions focused. So if you're very interested in how we're doing, gearing up towards the launch, which will be quite soon, you should follow at Posemesh. That's the Posemesh Foundation's Twitter account. And you should follow at Auki Labs for the latest tech demos if you're here for the tech.
All right. So that's a very insightful episode, learning more about Posemesh and what Auki Labs is working on, the use case in the AI, metaverse, and smart cities space. And also great to chat to teams solving pressing problems in the Web3 space using blockchain technology. I can tell by the passion that you got through this interview that you're really passionate about what you're working on, and it's a very cool use case and unique use case as well. So make sure to subscribe and follow their updates on Posemesh and Auki Labs, and also subscribe for more Alpha Leaks, guys, and more insightful episodes to come. Thank you, Nils, so much for
Thank you, Sirada.
Yeah, this is a really fun and insightful episode, and hope you guys get a lot of insights in watching this. Thank you, Nils.
Next time, come visit us here in Hong Kong.
Yes, guys. So stay tuned because we are likely to be shooting from Nils' actual headquarters and then see what they're working on behind the scenes. Some really cool stuff, I can tell. And then we can go dive deeper into their solutions and their product demo and future updates as well. So stay tuned, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.